Hi there, Alpha and Monica here with Distill Design, and we are live on Google Hangouts on Distill TV.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Agenda for today, a few things we wanted to talk about. We are going to be talking about, spark your genius niche. What's this niche all about? So I have a few questions for you guys to ponder. Do you want to connect more powerfully to your clients? Do you want to know where they hang out? Do you want to know why it all matters, right? So just to go over a little bit of today's talk, we're going to understand a little bit more about why it's important to choose your own niche and become an expert in your niche. And if you have no idea where to begin, this is the great place to start. And we're going to help you discover your genius, your inner genius niche. So we want to make sure that you guys are able to connect with the right clients, the right target market, and make a bigger difference in the world, right? So today's episode, like I said, it's called Spark Your Genius Niche, and we'll be talking with our very, very special guest, friend, and colleague, Carol Schulte. She's a coach, speaker, and creator of Spark Your Genius, and she knows all about living big.
Yep.
So we wanted to welcome our guest. Hi, Carol.
Hi, Monica. Hi, Alpha. And hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me on your show. I'm really, really thrilled to be here.
Awesome. We're happy to have you on the show.
So before we get started, we wanted to do just a little bit of housekeeping. We wanted to just let you guys know that if you have registered for this event, you would have gotten a download called Spark Your Genius Niche worksheet. So it looks like this. And we'll be filling that out in just a little bit and kind of going through it and making sure that it's all ready to go and filled out for you guys so you kind of understand how to create that niche. And then we're going to be doing a little Q&A towards the end, and I think that pretty much covers it. So let's get started.
Just a few housekeeping tips. If you guys are looking to ask questions, you'll probably see me looking to the left a little bit here. I'll be checking the actual page that you registered on our site. There's actually a Facebook link down here where you can actually comment and ask questions right on our post here. And then I'll also be monitoring the Facebook page, the Distilled Design Facebook page, and you can post your questions there as well. And throughout the show, if anything pops up, we'll be sure to ask them for you.
Sounds good.
Great. So, Carol, the first thing I want to ask you is, what is a niche? Just, in detail, because I think people hear the word niche, it gets thrown around quite a bit, but let's really define it. So what is it?
So a niche, or if you're in the States, a niche, is your area of genius. It's your target, it's your arena, your playing field, kind of the area where your ideal customer lives and the space that you own. So when people say it's really important to become an expert in your niche, it's to really own your space where your target markets live, and that includes their psychographics, their demographics, really who it is that you want to talk to, what your target population consists of, and really getting clear on that area so that you can become that expert and you know exactly who to talk to, how to talk to them, where they live, where you can find them, and get known as somebody who has an educational platform in a specific area and arena. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Wow. So then, wow, you just dropped a lot on us here.
It's really intense.
Yeah. So you really, really know your target market, and you really know what it is that you're doing from having a niche. So I guess the next question would be why is it important to have one? Because you have people who do all things for all people, and then, the niche, I guess there's a different philosophy behind that. So can you tell us a bit about that and why it's important?
Sure. So I think especially for those starting out, they are so excited to work with people and they feel they can work with everybody. And oftentimes, depending on your service, you can. You probably could serve a whole lot of different people in a lot of different niches and areas. However, if you try and talk to everyone, as they say, you end up talking to no one. And if you really want people to find you and know you as the expert in a certain area, you need to own that space. And it doesn't necessarily mean that those are the only kind of people that you'll ever be able to work with or that you ever will end up working with, but you need to become that expert, that go-to in a specific area first, really build a name for yourself and some credibility and experience, and then expand from there. Because I really do think if you go out there and you don't know who you're talking to, it's a mess, right? And nobody really knows what your messaging is, and you're not going to connect with the people who could really benefit from what it is that you have to offer. So there's so much general noise that we get from so many arenas, so many different departments and fields and arenas, that if we don't know if they're talking to us, then we're not going to listen. We're bombarded by stimuli all the time. And unless you say, oh, that's for me, are you an entrepreneur? Are you a startup? Are you a female in business? As soon as somebody can connect and say, oh, yeah, that's for me, then they'll listen up. But if you get this messaging that's so generic out there, then it's going to be really, really hard to get those clients to come to you and to see you as the person that they need to work with.
Wow. That's interesting. That sounds really close and in line to really honing in on someone's brand. I think if when you're doing branding, for example, you really got to know your clientele. So I think that really falls in line with it, don't you think?
Yeah, I really like what you said, Carol, that if you're talking to everyone, you're talking to no one. And I think that that's absolutely true. It's really important to be able to position yourself in the arena that you're specializing in, so that you get all. I mean, it's better to get, say, 10 of your exact ideal client than 100 of not. So, because then you're really talking to no one, and you're not really getting that core business aspect of it, and really being that expert in your field. So that makes complete sense. Yeah.
So for all those out there that have just started a business or been in business for a long time, and you haven't really given that much thought to having a niche, I guess the next question for Carol would be when is it a good time to start your niche? Like how far in business should you be? Like, should it be the first thing you start on, or should you be in business for several years and then kind of hone into it?
So a tricky question, and there isn't necessarily one specific answer. But the reality is now, because if you don't have some sort of an idea, then you don't really know, as to your point, with branding, what you want to look like, what your messaging is going to be, where you need to go to network, to meet the people. I mean, if you don't know who you want to talk to or who you want to do business with, then you're lost. At the same time, you're not going to know who's going to resonate with you the most until you start doing. So when I first launched, I actually wanted specifically to work with those who were facing end of life and loss. And I was a grief coach. And I had done bereavement facilitation. My master's thesis was all in end of life discourse, with a lot of qualitative research. And I thought I wanted to work with that specific population. Only in me doing that did I realize coaching in that field didn't really exist yet, and I could either continue to try and knock down doors and convince the psychiatrists, the psychologists, all those medical doctors, and those who were social workers and sort of had credibility and different letters behind their name, that yes, coaching is beneficial. I could either do that, or I could say, you know what, it's maybe too new at this point, or this isn't really the people that I want to work with. And so had I not tried that and met with a lot of potential clients, realized, yes, I maybe want to work with this population, but not in a coaching capacity. So I still volunteer, but I realized, A, they don't have the money for that. If they're not going to be able to write off services against OHIP or insurance, then they're not going to see my services possible or even viable. And I don't want to have to convince people that it is something that's beneficial. And so I realized, okay, that's not necessarily my niche. And so I chose one. And in doing so, I recognized it's going to evolve from there. And I think as entrepreneurs and as business owners, our businesses are always evolving because we're changing. And so how we show up is going to be different. And as we learn and grow, the people that are going to be attracted to us and energetically connected are those who are just a few steps behind us because they want to learn. And so we're constantly going to be growing and changing and evolving. And as a result, our niche will probably do the same. But if you don't choose one from the get-go, then you're going to be lost starting out. And you're going to continue to learn by throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what fits, what doesn't, but you still got to make that decision at the beginning.
Wow.
Wow, so create the niche from the beginning of the business. Brilliant advice.
Wow, that's interesting. And that when you do create a niche from the beginning, it actually curves the way that your business is going, because it actually removes the parts of the business that may actually not be working for you.
Right.
That is awesome.
That maybe you thought would need your services or that you thought you'd want to work with, you realize, oh, maybe that's going to change. But until you own it, then you don't necessarily know that. Because if you just sort of say, oh, yeah, I could work with everybody, then people might not see what you could do for them. And, you know, you could say, I want to work with female entrepreneurs, and you're noticing that a lot of people at university are connected to you. Well, then maybe you realize, oh, okay, maybe that's not the niche that I'm supposed to be working with, right? But again, you're only learning that through doing.
Right.
Wow, so it really opens up a lot of opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to make sure that we get to that worksheet. So I think that this would be a great way to tie in to this next segment of the Hangout. So Spark Your Genius Niche worksheet. So for those of you that have registered, you'll get this worksheet. And otherwise, you could just kind of follow along. So Carol's put this awesome worksheet together, and like we said before, she's the creator of Spark Your Genius. So Carol, if you don't mind, we'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what Spark Your Genius is all about, and then bring us to that worksheet so that we can tie that into creating a niche.
Great. So Spark Your Genius is a program to really help entrepreneurs and people in business get connected with what it is that they do best and what unique gifts and talents that they bring to the table and really what difference that they want to make in their business. So I think by honing and owning your inner genius, you're going to more powerfully connect with your customers and make the difference that you really want to be able to make. And I think a lot of times we have these great ideas, but we don't really take the time to look at all we have to offer and what we bring to the table and why it is that we do what we want to do. And I think once you take the time to realize that and celebrate all that you offer and bring to the table, then you can really step it up. You can really own your space. You can have that confidence, say, yeah, no, I do know what you're doing. And you're also connected in a way that's you know, more than just doing work. You're passionate. And I think entrepreneurs often do something because it means something more to them. So when you recognize that and when you celebrate that and then when you look at all the skills and the gifts and the talents that you bring to the table and what's the mark and the legacy that you want to leave, then you can really work from this amazing space that allows you to get your message out there in a more powerful way. So
cool. Awesome. So then bringing it back into the worksheet, I guess let's start with G. What is G all about?
So G is for your gifts.
Oh.
So what are your unique gifts and talents that only you have? And I think a lot of times, and not to generalize, but alpha men experience this too, but women a lot in business are almost shy to step up and say, yeah, I'm really good at that, when really each of us have unique gifts that we've been given. And a great quote from Mother Teresa is, the gifts we've been given are ours to share, not to keep. And I think oftentimes when we don't feel good enough, we don't feel ready, we want to be stingy. And there's a story that I sometimes share. This woman named Sark, who's an amazing creator and entrepreneur, tells a story about how when you're not sharing your gifts, it's like you're holding on to your brownies. And she has the story of how she had a dinner party. It's as if she had a dinner party and brings everybody over, and everybody's smelling these brownies. They're so excited for dessert. And at the end of the night, people are like, okay, what's going on? When are we going to get those brownies? And all of a sudden you have these extra helpers who come into your kitchen wanting to do dishes because they're just so curious, like, when are we going to get to eat these? And then finally somebody gets the guts to ask, and then she says, oh, those brownies, they're not for you. They're not ready. I haven't totally tested the recipe. I'm not sure if they're good enough. They're just for me. Well, if you're not sharing your gifts with the world, it's like you're being stingy with your brownies, right? And so it's the idea that you need to own what you're good at because the world wants what you have. So really taking the time to get clear on your unique gifts is really important.
Ooh, brownies. I think I might make some today.
That is an awesome analogy.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Awesome. So in terms of gifts, it's really all about, what comes easy to you and what do others come to you for, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what comes naturally? What do you notice that people tend to gravitate you? Are they always asking for your advice, for your recipes, for your accountability? What are some of the things that is just part of you that you're like, oh yeah, that's easy? There's some of us who are gifted in organization. I'm not one of them. And then there are some who are gifted with communication skills or with those innovative ideas, or they're just power connectors. Whatever it is, everybody brings something unique to the table.
Cool. So we're on E now. What does E mean?
E is for your experience. So when it comes to work, often people think about all their work experience and what forms their resume, which is really important. And we also have a resume of life. So looking at what you've accomplished and what you've achieved and maybe the obstacles and challenges you've overcome too, that really contributes to who you are, what you bring to the table, and the lens through which you see the world. So experience is really important, both your work and your life experience.
I love how you said it's like the resume and then the resume of your life. I think so much of us fail to realize that there's all these different experiences we have with past clients and on top of the past work experience we've had, and on top of the education, and combining that all together is really what experience all means as a whole, right?
Totally. And oftentimes that life experience is even more powerful.
Right, and I know, like on this worksheet, you were saying, what are one or two things you have experienced not everyone knows about? So I think it's really interesting how we sometimes forget that life experience. So those things that maybe people don't know about, it'd be great to kind of jot that down onto this worksheet and you kind of think about that on top of that education that you have from like school and then that work experience. So like, what other things have happened in your life that brought you to this point and that you can share with the world? Which also brings us back to G.
Exactly. It all comes together.
Yeah. So what is N stand for?
So N is narrative, your personal story. And you had a guest on here, oh gosh, now I forgot her name, and I listened to it, which is all about storytelling and the importance.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. And it really is important because, again, our story really shapes who we are. And so looking back on what's brought you to this point and how who you are comes into your business, because I think that's really important, especially when you're startups and you're entrepreneurs. Oftentimes it's a 1 or 2 person show, and people are going to connect with you because they want to connect with you and who you are and what you stand for. And so I think looking back on your story is really, really important and is really comes into play in terms of what you do. Oftentimes you'll see people doing what they're doing because of their story, what they've lived through, what they've experienced, who they're about.
Right. Now, is it important to keep the story short and sweet when you think about the N in Genius?
So sometimes when I'm doing this in a longer version, I have people go through significant life events and really hone in on certain things that have happened throughout their lifetime up to this point, and then I have them try to make their story into 1 sentence, so to really get clear and hone in. So yes, obviously our life is very difficult to put into 1 sentence, but I think when you're thinking of your story, what you're really about, the simpler and the more concise and the more you can zero in, the better. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really all about clarity. One thing that we really push to our clients is all about clarity. There's so, like you said earlier, it's so saturated with all these different messages. It's once you get clear and you hone in on that right message, it's Bob's your uncle. The rest is history. It's very clear.
Yeah.
So
the voice shines through.
The voice shines through. Yeah. Totally. Actually, yeah, that is absolutely correct. Okay, so now we're on I. So I is for what?
I is, before we get into I, so it's important to note that the G and the E and the N is everything that has helped contribute to who you are up until this point. And so looking back on your life experiences, looking back on your gifts, looking back on your story, and that all is really important to get you to this place and to honor and to celebrate that. And then the rest of Genius is all about Knowing all of that, who do you now want to choose to be and step into moving forward? And that can be based on some of your past, but also recognizing we have an opportunity to create who we want to be and what we want to do moving forward with every new moment. So this is all now owning what you want to step into and being pulled by that. So I is for inspiration. So what are you really pulled to? What are you drawn to? And there's a line that says, if your why is strong enough, you'll figure out the how. And I think when you're inspired, which comes from the stem in spirit, then if you have that larger vision, then you'll be able to work through those days where you don't feel good enough, or where you're not sure where to start, or you don't think that you're ready, because you just are compelled by this stronger inspiration that is really drawing it out of you. So I think really getting clear on your why and what really inspires you is so important.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to really take the time to kind of figure that out. I know that we had a problem with that for the longest time. Well, maybe not Alpha, but I did. It's sometimes it's kind of hard to make that connection. So I think this is a really important area to really kind of figure out what inspires you, and what's gonna make your heart sing, and then once you figure that out, it's really gonna shine through to the clients, and it really hits home with that. With the G.E.N.I.U.S, it really hits home because it's all about bringing that all together into clarity. So totally.
And I know there's a lot of amazing people who do work, like Simon Sinek is all about start with the why, and how a lot of businesses, even though you don't necessarily know, like Apple, they're not about the products, they're about what they stand for. And I think people are connected to that. So if you really get clear and through your messaging on why it is that you do what you do and what really inspires you, that's what people are going to see. And that's what people are going to be drawn to, subconsciously or not, right? Or consciously or not.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, okay, so now we are on U, and U is for?
U is for unique values. So I think it's in business, they always say it's really important to get clear on what your core values are, and I couldn't agree more. And I think it's important to get clear on your personal values as well, because that's going to drive what your values are in your business. And when people think about values, sometimes not everyone is aware of what those are. So it's your non-negotiables, right? It's what you stand for. It's when you're conflicted with a lot of different potential areas to go, or choices or decisions, you have to think, okay, what's most important to me? So sometimes if people aren't sure what their own values are, I say, look back on a time when you were really, really happy. What value was being expressed? And maybe it was a time when they were with their family, so maybe it's family or connection. Maybe they were, traveling the Great Wall of China. Maybe it's adventure or travel. Maybe it's freedom. But one of those values are being expressed. And when you feel out of alignment, when you feel pulled in so many different directions, often it's because you're out of alignment in sort of one or more of your own values. So is it integrity? Is it drive? Is it service? Is it fun? Freedom? All of there's a multitude of values out there, passion, authenticity. Pick your poison, but it's important to take the time to recognize, what is it that I stand for? Because when you are confronted, then you can say, okay, I have a business opportunity and I have family dinner and my value is family, I'm going to do that. And these values change at different points in our life and at different points in our business, so it's important to note that as well. But if you really know what your 3 to 5, some people have a bit more core values are, that's really going to drive a lot of your decisions.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that it's really important to make sure that you concentrate on what you stand for and your core values in order to be successful in your business. Because like you said, we were being pulled in all these different directions, but if you understand that these are your values, it's going to be, your business will be so much more successful and your clients will be so much happier because you're standing by your word and you have integrity and you're doing what you believe in. And I think that really helps with niche in general as well, because it's going to help bring people towards you that have those same values.
Exactly. And it also goes back to branding. So if you're known for certain things, then they can say, oh, yes, Distill, like I look at you as very pure, very clear, just this white space that has opportunity for creation, but clarity as well, and simplicity. And And I think when you, even if people, your customers aren't aware of that, if you've taken the time to understand what your values are, that's going to go into your branding, your marketing, all of that sort of stuff. So if you think of, Volvo, you'll probably think of safe, right? They probably did that on purpose to really get clear on what they want to be known for. And I think those are where the values come in.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. So we are now on S. What is S?
So S is for the service that you want to offer your people and the world. I think at the end of the day, all of us have a common mission, which is to give back, to make a difference, to leave our mark, to contribute. And it's important to think about that and what you want that to look like. What do you want your lasting legacy to be? What do you want to be known for? And I think we all are driven by that underneath, but all of us have different ways of showing that or expressing that. And so what is the service that you want to offer? And how do you want to give back? And what do you want your legacy to look like?
Right. Awesome. So what I want to talk about now is really how do we kind of tie this all in and help people kind of hone in on their niche based on G.E.N.I.U.S.
So the idea is that before you can choose a niche, you need to look at yourself and what you bring to the table based on your area of genius. So what are your gifts? What is your experience? What's your story? What inspires you? What do you stand for? And how do you really want to give back? And when you know all of that, then you're going to get a lot more clear on, okay, so what do I want to do? Who do I want to work with? Based on, the difference that you want to make, based on what you uniquely bring to the table. And I think sometimes we think we need to choose a niche out of a hat, and no, it's a little bit more than that. But we're so quick to want to get started and have everything figured out that we often miss that step of taking the time to look at all that we bring, all that we are, all that we have to offer. And I think when you get clear on that, you have a lot more planning and a lot more substance behind it, but also it helps with confidence and belief. When you actually take the time to say, oh yeah, I actually do have a whole lot, I actually know more than I'm giving myself credit for, and I know where I'm going, then you can say, okay, I'm going to connect with that customer because this is what I bring to the table, this is who I am, of course they're going to want to work with me. And so I think it really not only informs who you want to work with and what your niche is, but it also gives you that confidence and that belief that you are meant to be doing what you're doing.
Okay, thank you for that. I think that really actually brings everything together. I think you hit it on the nail there. It's so important to be able, or to have to kind of really hone in on, what your gifts are to the world, what you have to offer, really hone in on your experience, figure out everything that you've done in your life up until this point, and make notes of all of it. I think we all kind of forget to make notes of that and really kind of experience that of what we've done. We always forget how special we are. So I think gifts, experience, and then narrative, of course. What's your story up until now, and then kind of inspiration. So what excites you, what makes your heart sing, is just great. And then of course your unique values. This is, again, something that I find a lot of us forget to think about and forget to take note of. Values are so important in order to portray to your clients and to have in your personal life and in your business. And then the service, figuring out what you're going to contribute to the world. I think that particularly ties in with everything before that as well. So I love how you came up with this genius thing. It's this acronym is fantastic. And I so agree that you have to figure out all of this before you figure out your niche. So we do have one question that came in from Jennifer, and I just wrote it down here. So it's actually kind of broad. What are some examples of a niche?
Okay, that is really broad. So a niche could be female entrepreneurs, a niche could be families, a niche could be teenagers, it could be those in university, it could be medium-sized businesses with 10 or fewer employees. It depends sort of what your company is and what your business is, what the different niches are. For instance, if you're working business to business, maybe your niche is, technology companies, because what you offer is a software that medium-sized businesses in technology could really benefit from. But it's examples of different groups or different types of population that you could work with.
Okay, and I'll add on to that. How specific do we need to get?
That's a great question. You need to get specific enough that you know what you need to say so that those people will recognize you're talking to them. Mm-hmm. So if it's a group of people that use a certain type of language, that resonate with certain types of messaging or certain types of color, if you want to target the baby boomers, how you do that is going to look very differently than millennials, right? So you need to get specific enough that somebody can recognize, oh yes, you're talking to me. So I know Callan Rush talks about these labels that we have, and they're like type label. I forget what the actual phrase is right now that she uses, but you need to be able to say female entrepreneurs starting out in business, or for instance, if you're a financial planner and you want to work specifically with those who have experienced divorce, females have experienced divorce who want their financial freedom back, or something like that. So specific enough that a lot of people can resonate with it, but it is a group that you know who you're talking to, who you can work with.
Right.
Wow.
Cool. Do you have any upcoming events that are coming up in 2015?
I do, yes. I have a goals workshop to really get clear so that you can create your best 2015 ever, and that is on January 8th. And then I have a few more things coming up that are not specific dates yet, but that's that. I have my next group coaching program launching January 5th, so that's coming up as well. And I'll have a webinar info session second week of December.
Cool, that sounds like fun.
Mm-hmm.
So awesome, and I actually I wanted to share with the listeners just a few things about Carol, and then I think you can probably get all the information from her if you connect with her after the session. So just wanted to let you guys know that we recommend to sign up for an awesome free strategy session that she offers. And at this side panel of the Hangout that you guys are logged into, there is a place where you can click on a little teal button, and it says free strategy session with Carol. So you click there, and it links directly to her. Carol, what's your email address if they'd like to just email you directly outside of that?
Carol@carolschulte.com. So you can see the spelling of my funny last name down there, but yeah, Carol@carolschulte.com.
Awesome. So you guys can also check out Carol's website at carolschulte.com, and I will be sending out a follow-up email after the session, which you guys will probably get today or tomorrow, which will be there'll be a link there to sign up to her Happy Friday newsletter, which I actually happen to love. I love that newsletter. It gives me so much inspiration for the weekend and then the following week coming up. I absolutely love it. And what an awesome idea. We're always told not to do newsletters on like Wednesdays and Thursdays. People don't read it. So what do? You come up with Happy Friday newsletter. It's fantastic. It's so good. So I really recommend for you guys to sign up to that. You can also sign up for it, of course, through going to her website. And for those of you on the Hangout today, you will once you sign up to the Happy Friday newsletter, you're also going to get her free report, which are 7 ways to live big or even bigger. So these are all tangible ideas about kind of how to show up and play full out and focus on what really matters both in life and in business. And that's really what it's all about: playing full out in life and in business and living each day to the fullest. So if there's anybody that knows how to live big and play big and dream big and do big, like you guys all know my email signature, it's Carol's too, and she knows all about doing those things. Like the whole, what do you do? Bungee jumping. You do what else? You got amazing hiking trips and like crazy adventures. It's just Carol's a really awesome, inspirational person, and so. We wanted to just thank you, Carol, for being on the Hangout today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Monica. That means a lot to me. I really, really appreciate it. And I think what you and Alpha do is amazing. I look up to you guys as well. I love your business. So it's a pleasure and an honor for me to be on Distill TV today. So thank you very much for the opportunity.
Woohoo! Thanks, Carol. So remember, guys, check her out on carolschulte.com, and we are checking out on Distilled TV Hangouts, and we will talk to you guys again soon. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for being here.